Hello, everyone, and now it is time to talk about BB22. And I did not like the season at the time, and I honestly felt like they should have just not done Big Brother during the year, but they obviously needed content due to COVID. But just with how everything in the season was handled, honestly, they should have just not done it, and it seems like most people involved kind of regret taking part in the season. Returning seasons are generally less fun for the returning players. I remember during the season, there's a lot of commentary leaked from the feeds that the producers were not happy with the season or the house guests. There's nothing really happening, and there are a lot of old wounds that were reopened with the season. With time and distance, I thought maybe I would appreciate the season even more. And while I was frustrated at the time, during this rewatch, I just felt absolutely nothing. Like, I'm looking at how I ranked the weeks of the season, and I don't even know if there's a single good week in it. So that's not a good sign at all. I also felt like with how this cast was established, it was very obvious that Cody was going to win even before the season even started, and the early boots were very easy to predict as well. Honestly, I don't really care for a lot of the pre-gaming complaints that people have on the season, because there's pre-gaming on the original All-Stars, there's pre-gaming on all the mixed seasons, and not even in just Big Brother, but The Amazing Race, Survivor, The Challenge, and all of these reality shows in general. So it's just a weak moot point, in my opinion. I think the thing is that people had such high expectations for this season because it's an all star cast and they know how to play. But if anything, I think it just made them play even more safe. And just based on how they haven't done a real all star season in 14 years up to that point, and seeing how imbalanced it was based on the eras of the people that took part in the season, it was very easy to predict what would happen. It was an interesting way to wrap up this era, and you can definitely see some of the hints towards the next era, with the live move in, week one actually only being 1 week, the shortened seasons, which lasted for a few seasons after this, and the increase in diversity casting and the diversity talk in general. So you start to see some of that here. So regarding week one, I can't say it's a good or an even interesting week, but I guess it's one of the few where Cody didn't get exactly what he wanted, and it was interesting seeing all these people get together, since some of them played with one another and others didn't, or some of them knew people that played with some of these seasons. So there's a lot of intermingling of the webs that was somewhat interesting to watch on the feeds, but a lot of it isn't executed on the episodes. So this is the very first live move-in night, and it's very awkward. Nicole F is now engaged to Victor and feels like she wasn't given credit for her BB18 win. Danielle is now married to Dominic and is a mother as well as a housewife, while shading her father without saying his name. Devon is now an acting coach and did 2 challenge seasons in between her BB seasons, and is planning to keep her mouth shut, which, yeah. Christmas is now a mother and still an entrepreneur online, though also ignoring her crashing into her ex's car while pregnant, but wants to dominate the season. Anyways, the four of them immediately compete in a competition where the final two will have a chance to compete in the first HOH comp, but Christmas is the only one who didn't time out. Tyler is still with Angela and they own a jewelry company where they are attached to the hair, which was kind of an issue in this season, and apparently she forced him to do the season when he didn't initially want to do the season. Ian has a real job and a girlfriend, so he is grown up, but wants to hibernate for weeks until he kicks it up in the endgame. Well, that didn't work for him this season, but it's a sound enough strategy. Kevin is now a senior creator-director, has an alter ego, which didn't show up in the house at all this season, and got married a year and a half ago. Enzo has 2 children now, still lives with his aunt and mother, and I believe he got divorced in between seasons, and of course brags about starting the brigade. Ian and Kevin are the 2 who make it to the next round. Janelle has had 2 more children since her last season, and she is now a real estate agent. Bailey is a model and married Swaggy, and I believe she did the challenge a few months before the season. Nicole A still lives at home and is now a podcaster for reality television, which she stopped doing because the backlash from this season was too much and was very unwarranted in my opinion. Keisha works at a restaurant in Malibu and has a bunch of pets. Her package is very lacking compared to all the other women, and it's clear that she was an alternate. Also, she got married and divorced in between seasons. Nicole A is the only woman to make it to the final round. Kaysar is now married and a father and is still a practicing Muslim, has traveled the world and is now an executive. Cody is a real estate agent and a soccer coach. He has a girlfriend and is still defensive about people perceiving him as a puppet, and he makes fun of his father kissing him and Polly in their intros in the prior seasons. Memphis is a restaurateur and is now a father, while claiming that he and Dan are the biggest duo in BB history, which I don't really agree with that, and I don't think many people do. Anyways, David is doing a lot of athletics and is claiming to be more zen, where he wants to play strategically and socially. Memphis and Cody are the two to make it to the final round, and this live premiere is really boring, but it does give us day one live feeds. When everyone meets up, Julie decides to ask them a bunch of questions and is definitely very fillerish. Cody ends up winning the first HOH, and the competition is very faulty since you can still see the movement of the paddles from the others who previously did it. So he could see which one was stable and wobbly, and Julie speaks to him in the diary room to fill up some time. Cody didn't want to win the first HOH initially, but all of the unfamiliar faces caused him to change his mind. Janelle and Kaysar talk about how they haven't seen one another in 14 years, and it shows that when the clout of the Big Brother world is over, or the Big Brother seasons are over, most of these people go back to their lives away from one another and don't speak like that. Nicole and Devon seemingly make up, and Nicole is crying because Devon was the vote for her to win the season. And this does not age well whatsoever. And apparently Nicole's parents told her to work with Devon entering the season, if she's in there. Devon does not trust her and wants to be played by her twice, which also has not aged well. David is talking to Kaysar about how there isn't a black winner, so it's in his motivation, and honestly, it's clear why David was cast, especially because a lot of the black men over the last decade has flopped exponentially, and he was the most recent one, so his inclusion in the season is very awkward, but it's kind of obvious as to why he was included, though many people won't say why. Nicole speaks to Cody, where they are planning on being ride or dies with one another this season. Like I mentioned in Big Brother 18, Nicole and Cody's mothers are friends, or were friends at the time, and she also played with his brother. Cody mentions that he wants to nominate Kaysar and Janelle, but he does not know who Keisha is, and Nicole throws out the idea of them making gendered alliances. Tyler speaks to Cody in the HOH room, and they of course agree to work together, and Cody announces the safety suite twist, where for the first 3 weeks, you can compete to win it, to save yourself before the nomination, but you can also only play once, and the HOH cannot play. The winner can also name a +1 and can save someone else. Keisha and Kaysar talk about how they are the older people in the house, and they feel out of their depth, especially with Cody as HOH. And by older, I don't think they're just talking about age, but when they played Big Brother. Danielle is trying to play under the radar and calm this year, which doesn't work, and of course Enzo bonds with Cody over being Italian from New Jersey. David doesn't want to be the first boot again, and he talks about it with Devon. Keisha and Janelle talk about how neither one of them feel safe. Kaysar speaks with Cody, and they talk about how they don't have any connections in the house, and neither one of them trust one another, and it's very clear to each other about this. Cody also speaks to Janelle, and she can sense that he is off as well. Cody speaks to Memphis, and they immediately click, where Memphis mentions that they should form a big alliance in the first few days. Allegedly, Dan and Derek pre-game together to help them both in this season, and Cody mentions that he wants to nominate Janelle and Kaysar. Janelle and Kaysar decide to play his safety suite, and Kaysar wins the competition, where he also saves Janelle. Cody pretty much has to create new nominations and tells Nicole that he's thinking about nominating Keisha and Kevin. They are also the next two oldest based on when they played Big Brother, and age-wise as well, so it isn't shocking, as he hasn't spoken to either one of them and doesn't see himself working with Keisha. Just the way he dismisses Keisha throughout the season, even long after she's gone, is just really awkward to watch. Kevin is feeling very intimidated by Cody and people like him talking about his insecurities, and it's clear that the stuff regarding Jeff from Big Brother 11 has still affected him, which he said on live feed, and he kind of projects a lot of that onto Cody throughout the season. He ends up crying to Cody about being so awkward and how Cody is so perfect, where Cody ends up having to comfort him. Cody nominates Kevin and Keisha for eviction. Kevin is crying in the diary room and feels like he is letting everyone down. Kevin speaks to Cody, and it's the typical awkward nomination aftermath conversation, but they both claim that they will work with one another in the future, which doesn't end up happening, and the relationship only gets a lot worse. Janelle and Keisha know that they would have been nominated this week, and they feel bad for Keisha, but they need to lay low this week, so they can't campaign for her much. Cody speaks to Keisha. He literally hasn't recognized her from BB10, and I don't think he watched her season either, but it's odd because he knows Memphis. And they talk about how much they don't know one another. Kesar and Devon talk about their ethnicities and the diversity in the world, with the Black Lives Matter movement happening at this time. And he mentioned that the Iraqi war was fresh when he first played in BB6. Nicole A is present for this conversation as well. Tyler does not want to make a bunch of alliances like he did in BB20, but he ends up doing the same thing here, and they make a montage out of it. Enzo talks to Cody about their final two, and they name their alliance the Root, which, very weird name. Ian talks about how he has autism and found out after the season, and it's a pretty nice conversation, especially since Nicole A has worked with people who are on the spectrum as well. Kevin speaks to Enzo and David separately to get them to play the veto for him. Enzo wins the veto, and he has no intention on using the veto. Nicole F and Ian make a final two with one another, as they are the only winners in the cast. He has a backup plan for Nicole. Kevin makes his pitch to Enzo and Cody. He knows that they are close, and they try to make it look like Cody and Enzo are considering backdooring Ian, but it's all for naught. Devon and Bailey connect due to being the only black woman in the house and agree to work together. Strikey also apparently told Bailey to work with Devon entering the season, so there's that there. Enzo does not use the veto. Janelle realizes that she can't campaign for Keisha to stay since it will build a bigger target on her, and Cody solidifies his final two with Memphis, where they call themselves the Commission. Tyler and Bailey finally have a conversation, and they seemingly make up after how turbulent things are, though things ended up falling apart for them once again. Kevin and Nicole A are getting really close, and they make a final two together, since they are both oddballs, in their house and in life. Memphis makes a 6-person alliance, so he's playing a telephone alliance, or the telephone game, where he wants Christmas, Tyler, Danielle, and Nicole to be added. On the feed, and what they didn't show here, is that Memphis actually wanted Bailey in the alliance instead of Nicole, but Danielle pushed back and mentioned that if you include Bailey, you have to include Devon, which is very suspicious and kind of problematic. Keisha talks with Janelle, and she does not know Tyler's name, which is showing how Keisha is out of her depths, and Janelle shades her for it. Cody and Devon agree to work with one another, and I'm pretty sure Polly, who considers her a sister, told both of them to work together before entering the house. And they both talked about him a lot on the feed, which didn't make it into the episode, so I'm sure that's a variable for them both. And apparently they wanted to add Enzo and Bailey, so it's another backup alliance for Cody. We see Christmas kind of campaigning for Keisha to stay to Cody, the same thing with Memphis, while Devon wants to keep Kevin to be an ally, when Nicole F doesn't really care. Keisha is evicted in a unanimous 13-0 vote. Keisha was very disappointing in the season, as she did very little during her short time in the house, and she kind of kept to herself and didn't really say much or do much. But at the same time, she was an alternate for most of the season and only got added in because Casey had a COVID test and it came back negative. And at the same time, she didn't really watch the show after her season ended, and she didn't really engage in the alumni afterwards. So she really didn't have much of a connection to BB in general after her season and the recency of it ended. I don't really have much to say about her. I definitely think she should have made more bonds with people and tried to campaign, since she really didn't. But in general, I don't have much to say about her, and she's just very disappointing. I don't have much thought on week 2 in general. It just kind of comes and goes like most of the weeks on this dry season. Memphis wins HOH, and this establishes the committee alliance even more, where things might have changed if someone else won this HOH, and the alliance might have been a fake one. So, David doesn't feel safe, and Janelle feels safe with Memphis because they are OG Big Brother players, which she discusses with Bailey, who also feels safe. Cody and Memphis talk about nominations, and he mentions that the easy move is Nicole A and David, though he can nominate Janelle, Kesar, and Ian, who will go home if he's on the block, the latter, since he won. They plan that people in their alliance need to play in the safety competition, because they don't want a repeat of last week. Bailey talks about growing up with all white people, and white men liked her because she was, quote-unquote, the black girl. And Devon talks about how she has received colorism throughout her entire life. And I also think she was partially bothered with the house preferring Bailey over her because Bailey was a little bit whiter than she was in the house. Bailey talks about being scared to have children in this world. She has one now and is pregnant as I speak. And Devon talks about teaching her daughter about the Black Lives Matter movement. Memphis plots with Christmas, Nicole F., and Danielle, where some of them can play in the competition this week to hide their alliance. He wants all of them but Cody to play in it, and Nicole F. and Danielle are not falling for it, since it'll just leave him open to play next week, and he would gain safety during that next week. Nicole A. speaks to Memphis, and he tells her that no one is safe, so he wants all of them to play in the safety competition, which makes her feel comfortable. And just the way he approaches the entire situation is just really off, and gives off a sketchy feeling that he never really gets rid of. Ian speaks to Memphis and mentions that he's not spoken to Dan in 10 years, and Memphis is threatened by Ian, so he wouldn't mind getting revenge on Ian for his friend Dan. Though, from what I remember on the feeds, Memphis stated that he didn't speak to Dan in a few years at this point, though Dan was rooting hardcore for Memphis while the season was airing. But I do think some of the tension between Memphis and Ian during the season was due to Dan. Anyways, Ian sees through Memphis' plan to get to the house to play in the safety suite this week, so only he will play next week. Tyler also sees through Memphis' plan, and David, Cody, Ian, Kevin, Christmas, Davon, and Bailey decide to play. Nicole A. didn't want to play since she's following her gut this season, which she didn't last season, and too many people are playing. Bad choice for her. Christmas wins the safety competition and also saves Ian. He had a prior conversation with her about it, which was a good move for him. Memphis now has to find someone else to target. I don't know if Ian was going to be his first target in reality, or that's just a deceptive editing trick on the episodes. And Christmas talks to her future husband about her choice, where he mentions that Ian needs to go by week 5 or 6, but he's pretending to be fine with her choice. Cody complains to Memphis about Christmas saving Ian, and Memphis telling him about telling Nicole A. that everyone should play, and she didn't end up playing, while David is his target. Memphis nominates David and Nicole A. for eviction. Memphis calls David a rookie in his speech, and Danielle is annoyed with the nomination speech. Just how Memphis treated David in general throughout the entire season is very uncomfortable to watch, and seeing how obsessed he was over him really just did not sit well with me. Nicole A. is not handling the nomination well and feels like an outcast. Tyler comforts David about Memphis' speech. They apparently had a pre-game alliance that was formed by Ovi, of all people. And he trashes Memphis and throws shade at old Big Brother, which I hope was scripted on his part, and the producers made him say that, because otherwise, yikes. Nicole A. is comforted by Janelle, who is crying her eyes out. Nicole's crying her eyes out, and Janelle wants to work with her. Janelle and Kesar speaks to Memphis about his nominations, and he is laughing about his nomination speech, where he says David hasn't played the game before, and he told Nicole to play in the safety suite, but he doesn't care who goes home this week. Janelle pushes for Nicole F. to go home to Memphis, and she has Danielle and Cody on her side. Janelle also mentions walking into the three of them and Tyler talking game, and there was an issue that started with Nicole and Janelle from the Amazing Race season from 2018, that had people from Big Brother and Survivor on it, where Nicole and Victor feuded with the Riley sisters, and Janelle pretty much chose Rachel and Alyssa's side on the matter. Nicole A. and David do not like being nominated against one another, as they are the only people from last season on the season. Nicole F. talks about how Victor will be an amazing father, and I think she got pregnant literally right after the season. Enzo talks about his children being older this time, and Kevin talks about hoping to have a child via in vitro. Memphis tells Cody that Kesar and Janelle tell him everything, and he tells Cody about how they know about everyone in their alliance but Christmas and Memphis, which worries Cody, who wants one of them backdoored this week. Memphis told him to not tell anyone, and of course, Cody tells Danielle and Tyler about this, hoping one of them is backdoored, but Memphis doesn't want to make the move himself. Tyler speaks to Memphis about what Cody told him, and Nicole F. is told that Janelle wants her backdoored, and she doesn't get why Janelle doesn't like her, and also doesn't understand why Memphis is so calm about this. Memphis wins the veto, and of course he's not going to use it. Nicole A. breaks down to Kevin, since there's a chance she's going home, and there's a good chance he won't use the veto. Nicole F. is of course paranoid about being backdoored, though she really doesn't have much reason to be worried, and Christmas tells her to calm down. Danielle speaks to Memphis about Janelle and Kesar, and it's very awkward to watch them talk about this, since she wants one of them backdoored, specifically Janelle. Cody specifically wants Kaiser backdoored, just as Memphis was complaining to him about Danielle pushing her agenda, but Cody's doing the same thing. Memphis does not use the veto. Literally, neither side is pleased with Memphis' move, since we have both Janelle and Nicole F complaining that he didn't backdoor the other. Nicole A is campaigning to Devon about how one female has gone home and it's not going to be good if they start getting picked up, which ends up happening in the season where none of the women end up having a chance. Devon states that she can't vote out David because he is black and there's never been an African American winner, while also stating that David is not her friend. You don't tell that to a non-black person, as it just makes them feel uncomfortable with working with her and that she'll choose race over anything else, and that shows all of them that they are expendable to her, and she told more than one person this in the season. It's just a really, really bad move. So, Kaiser mentions to Devon that Tyler, Cody, Danielle, and Nicole are working together with David. She doesn't buy that because it makes no sense as to why David would work with them. But it kind of shows how Kaiser doesn't fully understand the dynamics. Kaiser mentions that he wants to work with her, Bailey, and Janelle to take out the other side. And I'm guessing Kaiser doesn't know that Devon is friends with Cody's brother Polly, so that wasn't going to happen. Since it's not like he knows the dynamics of the later Big Brother seasons, casts, and the challenge, so he wouldn't have known that. Though I believe she talked about it openly in the house. But either way, Kaiser's just missing some information. Devon asks David if he's in the majority alliance, and he talks in circles without confirming or denying anything, since he isn't in the alliance, and Devon cheats him about knowing how to play the game for a few weeks. Though, her first run was very poor as well, so she has no room to really talk here. He tells Bailey to tell Devon to calm down, and she doesn't like that. Faisal did the same thing to Bailey, and she didn't handle it well then. Bailey and Devon talk badly about David being a liability and how they want to vote him out, but Black Lives Matter, pretty much. Kaiser and Janelle tell Nicole that the votes are split, and he mentions that she only has 3 votes to stay. She tells them to not push too hard, since people think they are in an alliance, and she mentions that she is expendable to everyone. She feels like they claim that they have pulled with Memphis, but she's on the block, and she has people, mainly Kevin, but we also see Nicole and Danielle, mentioning that Janelle and Kaiser are ruining her game, so she's hardcore campaigning against them at this point. Nicole is starting to lash out at Janelle a bit, since she doesn't try hard enough to save her, in Nicole's opinion. And Kaiser tells Janelle that they made their push, but can't do anything. Janelle actually cries in her bed. Nicole A is evicted in a 10-2 vote. So watching her in this short period of time that she was on the season shows that she was still very insecure and didn't get over a lot of what happened last season, so it was way too soon for her to play. But at the same time, she definitely didn't come off as likable here, though I think the hatred for her that she received was very over the top and unwarranted. She had a wrong read and turned on Janelle and Kaiser when she shouldn't have, but it didn't make her a bad person, and they're acting like Janelle and Kaiser didn't do anything bad to anyone else. So I felt like the hate she got was very unwarranted, and I completely understand why she distanced herself from Big Brother after the way she was treated. At the same time, the game she played was horrible, and it showed that she would most likely be on the outs in most other seasons, and without a house that has the dynamic that is as volatile and can change like Big Brother 21, she would probably be in earlier boots more often than not. Especially since the dynamics in this season was so set in place and so unmovable. There was some very, very, very minor conflict during this week, but it's really nothing notable. And what makes this week even more frustrating is that if the second place person won the HOH instead, things would have been different. But even, I believe, Nicole A was close to winning the HOH in her final week, so a lot of the fate of the season just has to do with bad HOH results. Anyways, Tyler wins HOH and is planning on going after Janelle, who was close in the competition, and Kaiser, where they know that they're in trouble. David actually feels safe, and we learn that a side alliance called the Slick Six was formed with Cody, Tyler, Enzo, Devon, Bailey, and Danielle, though Tyler just said he doesn't trust either one of Bailey or Devon. Anyways, they made this alliance up pretty much just so Janelle and Kaiser can't pick up any numbers. So it's fake, but I'm pretty sure if a Devon or a Bailey won in HOH or 2, it would become more real. Devon feels safe with Tyler winning HOH, and Nicole makes a snide remark about Janelle trashing after Nicole made a snide remark about Janelle in front of the entire house during the have-nots situation, and Janelle is very annoyed. We have a very awkward tiff between the two of them that doesn't amount to a lot, and Janelle makes fun of Nicole in the diary room. Memphis is BSing Kaysar and Janelle about how he will use the safety suite on one of them, but Janelle knows that he is lying. Janelle and Kaysar talk about their friendship from 15 years ago, and it's crazy how he's spending his 40th birthday in the house with her. Now we have Tyler, Cody, Christmas, and the crew talking about Kaysar and Janelle, and he asks Cody to speak, or how to speak to them when they come to speak to him. Tyler speaks to Danielle about how they and Cody need to work together to double deal, and Danielle mentions that a few days ago, she overheard Devon and Bailey speaking with Kevin, Janelle, and Kaysar. So, Danielle and Tyler think that Devon specifically is aligned to Janelle and Kaysar. And they mention her mouth, though she didn't do anything so far, outside of fact-checking, though her constant need for fact-checking caused her position in the Slick Six to weaken, and I believe it was around here where it happened. And anyways, Devon was not working with Janelle. Devon didn't even really like her like that. It was Bailey who was closer to Janelle, so they read the situation wrong. Danielle winds Tyler up about Devon wanting the players to save her with the safety suite just to make him more paranoid. And it's the pointless pot stirring that got Danielle in trouble in Big Brother 13 that she's doing again here. So while she's doing some things different, she's doing a lot of the things that got her in trouble in prior seasons here. So in a lot of ways, her game isn't changing. Anyways, Nicole, Memphis, Danielle, and Enzo end up playing in the safety suite, and Enzo ends up winning it, and he saves Christmas, which of course annoys Devon, and Janelle knows Memphis to use the competition. Tyler and Enzo talk about how paranoid Devon is, he can do whatever he wants with the power, and how she's going to blow up, and it's so annoying how they consistently mention this about her. Kaysar speaks to Tyler, and he mentions that he knows he's going up, but Tyler mentions the same talking points with Janelle during the conversation. What happened on the feed is that Kaysar was obsessed after seeing Cody and Tyler talking, and I believe David was in one of those conversations as well. Janelle tried to tell him that they should work with Tyler, and even summoned Cody, but Kaysar would not insist, and he was very stubborn about this. And it got back to Tyler. Tyler nominates Janelle and Kaysar for eviction. Tyler and Devon speak where she's trying to get him to trust her, though he is clearly BSing her, though she asks about the replacement nominee, which he doesn't like. Devon decides to play nice with Kaysar and Janelle, and it's interesting that they're giving Devon all the screen time, when it was Bailey who was mainly closer to them. Bailey and Janelle speak, Janelle bashes Nicole a lot, and she hopes Bailey will play in the veto for her. Nicole and Danielle speak, and the latter mentions in the diary room that she's going to plant a bunch of seeds to let them grow. Like I said before, it's the same thing she did last time. Danielle would be fine if someone sends Enzo and Memphis home, and she knows Devon and Bailey will pick one another over her, and she won't beat Tyler at the end, but Janelle needs to go this week. I don't know why she was so obsessed with booting Janelle immediately when the latter wanted to work with her, and it could have been someone who really would have helped Danielle really have her own agency in the game. So I think it was a bad move on her point of view, and she was insistent on this from the moment the season started. We have a second of Janelle talking about her skincare regimen now that she is 40, and Ian rambles about the scientificness of it, which freaks her out. Danielle speaks to Bailey about how she needs to keep the nominations the same if she wins it, and Bailey feels cornered. Cody wins the veto, and of course he has no reason to use it. Danielle, Nicole, and Christmas talk about Memphis throwing the competition, though I don't think he actually threw this one, and thinks Memphis is sketchy. Janelle and Kaysar talk about reuniting, and she tells him that she thinks she is leaving, and he'll do better without her, especially if he just relaxes. Cody, Enzo, and Tyler talk about Memphis throwing the competition, which I don't think he did, but they all think that he was trying to help Janelle. Janelle makes her pitch to Cody to get the veto used on her, and mentions that she will vote with him over the next 2 weeks to work to get the floaters out, but it amounts to nothing, and he doesn't use the veto. Janelle makes her pitch to Tyler, who realizes that he might have made the wrong move, since she's a huge target that will always be targeted. Apparently he did want to work with her earlier in the season, but was rejected. Kevin and Christmas speak about the vote where Kevin wants to keep Janelle, since she at least spoke game to him where Kaysar hasn't, but Christmas wants Janelle gone. Bailey and Devon speak to their alliance, and they ask who's going home, where they mention that it'll be a third girl out in a row. And Courtney mentions that whoever stays will go next week, so the gender stuff doesn't really matter. Devon mentions that she wants Janelle gone since her allies are the guys, but someone needs to go after the guys eventually. Christmas tells Kaysar that he is staying this week, so he is planning on how to deal with the house by himself, since he's never played without her before in Big Brother history, or in his Big Brother career. Ian intentionally plays dumb to Christmas, since his strategy is to do nothing for 5 weeks. Janelle speaks to Memphis, who tells her that no one spoke to him about the vote, where if she has the votes, he will vote for her to stay. He is clearly lying. Janelle speaks to a bunch of people to make her case, and she is telling people that she has Memphis's vote. Danielle is not considering it, and she mentions that not even Cody can convince her to keep Janelle. Danielle is obsessed with being the quote-unquote new Big Brother queen, which unfortunately doesn't work out for her. Janelle campaigns to Cody, and she tells him that he won't target him if she stays in the house. David tells Bailey that Tyler told him that last week Devon tried to flip the votes to David to go, and she denies it, though there's a point where she heavily was considering it, and says that they need to clear the air. The three of them speak, and Bailey tries to play the mediator between them, but it's awkward since he brings up her trying to flip the votes and said that Cody and Tyler told him about her trying to flip the votes, and she denies it while getting angry and is starting to cry. He apologizes to her, and she's not interested in listening to it. Bailey tells David and Tyler that they need to talk, and the two of them talk about Devon trying to flip the vote, where Tyler says Danielle told him, and David mentions that he accidentally said his name, which pisses Tyler off. He is worried because he did want the Slick Six to work, and now Devon might get him out now. Bailey tells her that David is scared of her, and now Bailey is trying to calm her down. Tyler reports everything to Cody as he mentions that the two of them were thrown under the bus. Janelle is evicted in a 9-2 vote. So this season clearly shows what was already shown in Big Brother 14, which was 8 years ago at the point of this season, where her target and her legacy is so big to the point where she's always going to be targeted pre-jury. And the competition powers that she had in her first 2 seasons isn't there anymore, just due to age and how the competitions are different now. But unlike Big Brother 14, I do feel like Janelle made a lot more mistakes here. She didn't even attempt to make amends with Nicole, where she was very vocal about wanting her out to a lot of the people who were working with her. And I also think she followed a lot of Kaysar's bad advice, where I think that she had more of a handle on certain situations and certain reads without him, but he was so unflexible, and her tie to him made her weaken as well, where I think she could have done better if he wasn't in the house. At the same time, Janelle wasn't really all the way there socially, and while I do think she improved strategically somewhat, her playing Big Brother is pretty much at a dead end after the Shapiro era, so there's really nothing that can be done for her, and I just don't see what else she can offer. Okay, so week 4, another nothing week, and the dynamics are even more solidified, meaning they're a lot more stale. Enzo wins HOH, Kaysar was second in the competition, and Danielle reveals that she put a pity vote to stir some mess, which was pretty unnecessary, and it's one of the other contributing reasons as to why her target continued to grow in the house, where Cody thinks that she was the vote and she denies it, though she asked him to make the 2 pity votes with her a day prior, which is just dumb, but she reveals that she wanted to set Devon and Bailey up for the vote, and whichever one of them left, the other one would be her closest ally. So, from this, and from what I remember on the feeds, she wanted this plot to send Bailey home, so Devon could be more reliant on her. Kevin thinks that he is safe with Enzo being HOH, and Kaysar knows that he is in trouble. Bailey hugs Devon, and she's curious about the 2 votes, since she wanted to vote for Janelle to stay, and now people might think that it was the 2 of them who made the vote. Danielle pushes that one of the votes was Bailey, and the other was Devon or Kevin, and Cody outright says to Danielle that he thinks it was her. Kevin and Devon are asked about the vote, and David is asked when he enters, and like I mentioned in the past, who effing cares about these pity votes if the same person is gone anyways? David doesn't really respond about who he voted to evict, and everyone is sketched out by him now, and this is a repeated thing with David. Cody tells Enzo about Danielle's plans, and Enzo realizes that Danielle is trying to set up Devon and Bailey, so they see right through her. Kaysar talks about Islam and how it's very similar to Judaism and Christianity, since it is all the same God, and he talks about how he has to eat his own meat. This ends up leading to the conversation changing to George Floyd, and how they pulled out his record to justify his death, and Devon talks about how she has brothers who are scared to go outside, and Breonna Taylor was shot in her bed, and she even is afraid when a police officer drives behind her in her everyday life. She talks about feeling the pressure of having to play for the black community and the black woman whenever she plays the game. Nicole talks about her friendship with Danielle outside of the house, and we have a montage of them bonding and talking about any and everything, where they talk about how they have implicit trust in one another, which doesn't last. Enzo tells Cody that he's thinking about nominating Kesar, who hasn't talked game to him at all, and is thinking of Kevin as a pawn. Kesar makes his pitch to Enzo and mentions that he doesn't like floaters, but it isn't helping his case. Enzo and Christmas talk about how much they like working with one another, and how he wants her to be a +1 for him. And they talk about Ian doesn't talk game at all to people, but to not underestimate him. They talk about Kevin being a flip-flopper. They don't know what the hell is up with David. Christmas likes Nicole, who is close to Danielle and Ian, and they talk about Danielle's social game. Enzo nominates Kevin and Kesar for eviction. Kevin is embarrassed and blindsided about his nomination, so he speaks to Enzo about what the hell happened, and Enzo tells him that he is a pawn, and Kevin is annoyed with the "everyone likes you" excuse. Kesar speaks to Enzo, who tells Kesar that he is not going to go against the grain, which is Enzo's entire game. And Kesar's trying to make it seem like he is fine with everything, and tells him that he's a free agent, but Enzo just BS's him. Bailey speaks to David, who knows that he's on the outs, and Cody and Tyler are so pissed off at him, where Bailey tells him that she doesn't know how to speak to Devon about him. She tells him that people don't know where he is, or where he stands, and she is getting tired of him in general herself. Ian speaks to Enzo and is trying to give his loyalty to Enzo, especially since Enzo mentioned in his nomination speech that he likes people who speak game to him. Enzo sees right through Ian, who hasn't spoken game to him all season, and is now kissing his butt due to him being HOH, but Ian is on Enzo's radar. He speaks to Cody about Ian, and Cody mentions that Ian won throughout the entire jury portion of BB14, so he definitely is a threat. We have a segment about Kesar and Memphis pretending to have a talk show because they're so bored. David tells Kevin that he will play for him in the veto, and they both know that they don't have any allies, so they should work together. Kesar speaks to Bailey, where he tells her that she is low on the totem pole in the house, and they already formed an alliance without her. Bailey feels like he's being condescending, and she's acting very cold in the conversation, since she has the slick 6 and doesn't want to work with Kesar just because she worked with Janelle. And she ends up following him right after the door, and it just shows how short-sighted and short-visioned Bailey is about the game, since connecting with someone about someone else that you both are working with is a good way to gain allies and to get more agency in the game, but she doesn't even consider it. Tyler, Cody, and Enzo talk about how they're the only ones who wins competitions and kind of starts trashing the people in the comp that haven't won anything, and they kind of start trashing the women in the house, which is misogynistic. No way around it. Kevin wins the veto, and Kesar is trying to plot with Ian about what to do next, though Ian is very nervous about being the replacement nominee. Cody suggests for Ian to go up and to go home, but Nicole clearly doesn't want this to happen. Christmas suggests to be put up as a pawn, but Endo does not like the idea at all, but she wants to hide their alliance. Danielle has a meeting with the Slick 6 to host a meeting, though she states to Tyler and Nicole that they want to host a meeting, where Nicole is in the room and she is not in the Slick 6. Tyler is sketched out since he doesn't know if Danielle did this on purpose or if it was an accident, but either way it rubbed him the wrong way, and his eyes are on her now. Tyler reports all of this to Enzo, and he suggests to backdoor her. Kevin takes himself off the block, and Christmas is named as the replacement nominee. Kesar makes his pitch to Memphis that Cody, Danielle, Tyler, and Nicole are running the house, but it is a dead end since Memphis is aligned with them. Kesar doesn't realize this. Enzo and Cody talk about how Danielle needs to go very soon, and she's just planting seeds everywhere. And we have a montage segment of Danielle doing exactly this, as he mentions that Danielle is just very sloppy. Cody tells him about the committee alliance, but Enzo doesn't care, since Cody and Tyler are his guys, and he is in 3 alliances, though he'll hold this against Tyler when he eventually tells him on the latter's boot week. Bailey and Tyler talk about Danielle being messy, and we have another segment about this, and Tyler asks her if Danielle wants her and Davon to go after the guys, and she says not her, because Danielle doesn't speak to her like that, but to Davon, and Tyler tells her that Danielle wants them to go after her and Davon. Tyler speaks to Davon about Danielle trying to pit them out against one another, and he wants Danielle out, but Davon mentions that Danielle hasn't spoken about the guys to her, and from what my memory is telling me, I think this is a lie. To Cody and Enzo, Tyler is painting it like it was Davon who approached him to have a conversation about this, and it leads to all 3 guys bashing Danielle and Davon, and how they both need to go soon for being messy, and there's a few other commentary that has it coming off as pretty misogynistic to me, though Tyler is lying to cover his ass. Ian notices that Cody, Nicole, and Tyler are always at the table when Kaysar or Janelle makes a pitch, so he's telling Kevin that there's an alliance, and Nicole and Cody are at the core of it. I believe this happened after the wall yeller said something that Ian heard about it. Ian asks Bailey about the large alliance, and she mentions that Cody feels covered on all sides, which she is shocked by the information that he's giving her. Ian tells Kevin that he wants Kaysar to blow up the house as he leaves, which Ian pretty much tells Kaysar about what he has been telling people, where Ian mentions that he thinks there is more than 4 people in the alliance, but the others don't realize that they are all side pieces. Kaysar is evicted in a unanimous 10-0 vote. While I wasn't expecting him to come back, since his run on Big Brother was like 13 to 14 years ago at this point, but I was hoping that he would learn something and actually improve as a player. But not only did he double down on a lot of his faults from the prior 2 seasons, but I think he got even worse. He was even less rigid than he was in his prior 2 seasons. He really didn't talk game to a lot of people, and he made it very clear to most of the house who he was gunning after. So he alienated a lot of people and shut down a few people who did want to work with him, like Tyler, because he was so stuck on what he saw, and he alienated someone like David, who would have been someone that could have helped him, while also not seeing some of the dynamics, like why Bailey and especially Devon didn't want to work with him and Janelle. The season definitely would have been interesting had he won some power, but it was clearly clear to me that he was cast to be an early boot fodder, and I guess he fulfilled that role for production. So I guess in one way you can say that week 5 is more interesting than the other 4 weeks, but it's also more toxic and uncomfortable, especially with some of the undertones and the overtones that were blatant in the week. Anyways, Christmas wins HOH without even answering a question, and Devon is annoyed, since she was so and Kaysar gave her the ammo to put up Nicole and Danielle on the block. I don't believe those would have been her nominations, to be honest. Everyone reacts to Kaysar's eviction speech, and it wasn't even one of the more intense speeches, where Danielle and Cody are reeling about it, since Danielle actually was the third wheel between herself, Nicole, and Cody. And Nicole doesn't react well to this either, but it's kind of disrespectful because they all have partners. Devon and Bailey talked to Tyler about how Danielle and Cody picked her in the competition. They picked Devon, and she realizes that it is over, and she's pissed off. Cody speaks to Devon, and he says he knows that he fucked up. He should have chosen people not in the alliance. Cody is doing damage control right now, and she knows that he is a liar. And I think it personally hurt her, because it was another Calafiore screwing her over, and she's friends with Polly, so it's kind of like history repeating itself. Christmas states that Ian is one of her side pieces, and that she's been told by Danielle and Nicole that they are after her alliance. Nicole mentions to Christmas that you can feel when Devon is turning on you, and I can see how that would be correct. And if I do remember correctly, I think Bailey and Devon were having discussions about nominating Christmas if they were to win HOH. Danielle trusts and likes Christmas, which most certainly won't last, and states that Bailey won't make a move based on logic or strategy, unlike Devon. Devon she decides to speak game to Christmas for the first time, which is not a good thing, and mentions that they are both mothers, and while Christmas claims to like both women, Bailey told her that Devon is her untouchable. So Christmas is using this as a rationale. Enzo speaks to Christmas about how Ian needs to go, but Nicole, Devon, and Bailey are very emotional. But Danielle is also doing way too much with the plotting, so Christmas appreciates her relationship with Enzo. David, Danielle, and Christmas wins the power. Christmas won the blocker twist, where you can block yourself or someone else from being nominated during the veto ceremony after it has been used, but before someone else is nominated, which is available for the next 3 ceremonies. Danielle won the replay power, where the HOH can play back-to-back competitions, and it can be used over the next 2 weeks. David won the Disruptor power, where you can save someone after the nomination ceremonies, and they are saved for the entire week, which is available for the next 3 ceremonies. Danielle speaks to Bailey to ease the tension and complains about Bailey and Devon not speaking to her for an entire day, and she's acting clueless about why that is, and Danielle is clearly trying to victimize herself in this conversation. Bailey mentions that people are telling her that she's going after herself and Devon, and then Danielle chose them in the HOH competition. But Danielle is denying all of this, and she's not denying it whatsoever, and Bailey isn't believing her, rightfully so. Bailey asks Enzo if there was talk of Danielle going after herself and Bailey, and he says yes. Danielle is annoyed that Enzo threw her under the bus, and she rants to Christmas about it. Her ass got caught, and she can't handle it. Christmas tells Danielle to not let Bailey poke at her. She wasn't even doing that, which is fucked up, but it's another sign of microaggressions that consistently thrown at black people in real life, but black house guests in Big Brother. Bailey speaks to Tyler and Enzo about it, but she tells them that she doesn't want to say names, and Bailey is paranoid about Tyler turning on her as she's starting to freak out on them, as essentially a repeat of Big Brother 20, where she cracks under the pressure since she knows that people see her as the aggressive one. Bailey speaks to Devon about how she knows Tyler is going to flip it like she's the big bad wolf, and Tyler tries to clear the air. But Devon pretty much states that the alliance is done, where Bailey gets Tyler to tell her that he's more loyal to her than Danielle. And again, it's just a repeat of Big Brother 20. Christmas nominates Bailey and Devon for eviction. Christmas is crying in a nomination speech, and I think it's because she knows how it looks optically. And the nominees are not handling it well. Bailey tells Devon that she wants to go and for Devon to stay, and she states that she trusted Christmas, despite them never being in an alliance. Devon encourages her to not give up and to fight for herself, and the two of them start crying. David ends up joining them, and he doesn't like the nominees. Bailey speaks to Christmas about the nominations, and the latter is breaking down, as Bailey reminds her that she wasn't even coming after her, and Christmas repeats her reasoning. Nicole and Danielle speak to Devon, and she throws Tyler under the bus about Danielle plotting, and Danielle denies it, though she is lying, but she always did want Bailey out first, so it's kind of true. Devon is trying to get this to have Tyler backdoored, but they are going along with it, but they want Devon to stay this week and to build trust with her. Danielle does kind of want Tyler out, so she repeats all of this to Christmas, but it's the wrong person to tell this to, since Christmas is all about the alliance, and that has been her gameplay over her Big Brother career. And it only deteriorates Christmas and Danielle's relationship, which never really recovers. We are seeing Ian have a panic attack, and he had to leave briefly, since he hasn't had sleep and had panic attacks before. And he might have tried to leave the house as well, since I know that happened, but I don't remember what week that took place, but it was definitely before Tyler's events. Danielle and Nicole speak about being in the veto competition isn't good for them, but they would rather throw it to Devon than win it themselves. It doesn't matter since Christmas wins the veto after Nicole agrees to let her have it. Anyways, Tyler wants to leave the game because he misses Angela and knows that this is the last week before jury where he has to stay until the end after this week no matter what if he makes it. He hasn't fallen in love with Big Brother again, and he speaks to Bailey and Devon because he feels guilty about turning the house against them. He cries and apologizes to them about struggling in the game with the Danielle thing, claims that it is selfish, and mentions that he wants to, quote-unquote, stand for something bigger. And he also mentions the cause, and tells them that he wants to tell Christmas to nominate him, and that they're standing for something that is bigger than this. It's clear that he is referring to the Black Lives Matter movement, and I think he referred to it more than once on the feeds. Tyler claims that he wants to make up with them, and he is trying to make it seem like some righteous martyr act, but he's trying to quit without quitting, and wants to be known for being honorable and not manipulative. He asks Christmas to send him home, and she of course is not here for it. What they didn't show is that apparently he tried to quit in the diary room, and they told him that he would not get paid if he left, and his stipend would be cancelled, and he would obviously be blackballed, and they heavily pushed him to stay in the house. He is Christmas's ride or die, so of course it doesn't make sense for her to do this. After he's convinced to stay in the house, he refuses to speak or tell Bailey and Devon that he changed his mind, and I don't like how he and Angela bring up stuff like Black Lives Matter, and Angela mentioning that she wanted Bailey to be the first black winner in their selfish pictures while trying to stab her in the back. I don't respect it at all, but we see Devon speaking to Christmas to make it seem like she trusts her, but tells her that Bailey still wants Tyler's head on a platter. I don't know why she would tell her this, since it isn't going to make anything good come out of it for herself or Bailey. I also think one of the reasons why Tyler lost interest is because he was expecting Casey to be in the house, but she got pulled last minute due to COVID. But obviously he wouldn't have been told this before the season started. Christmas doesn't end up using the veto, which, duh. Christmas is annoyed that Bailey made a slight remark about her untouchable in the veto ceremony and her not taking accountability, and Bailey and Devon cry about their fate. Christmas tells Devon that she can't go after Tyler, and she's on the block due to what she told her, and Devon is frustrated with the situation, since, at least during the prior 2 seasons, she went home because she talked too much, but she did nothing so far. She did, but she wasn't aware of it, but Christmas tells her that she is safe. The real reason why the house wanted Bailey gone is because she was bragging about being a better juror in Big Brother 20, and they all know that Devon is not a better juror based on how she was in Big Brother 18. Tyler and Devon have a conversation about what happened, and they're BSing one another about how they need to go after one another. Enzo tells David that he wants Bailey to stay, which David agrees with, since he and Devon have not been in a good place. Cody learns that his grandfather passed away, and the house comforted him about it. So we have the huge blow up that happens between Christmas, Devon, and Bailey, where Devon is speaking to Christmas, and she mentions that Bailey feels betrayed because she told Christmas personal game information, and Christmas is confused about this because there's no such thing as personal game information. It's either personal information or game information, and anything in the game can be used against Devon or Bailey or anyone in the house. Devon is still trying to stick up for Bailey, and Christmas is getting very rowdy and very defensive, and she's not trying to hear what she's trying to say, and she's kind of victimizing herself while also victim blaming Bailey. Devon feels her attitude and she walks off and she goes in the backyard, and she's breaking down because she doesn't want to be known as the angry black woman that she's been stereotyped as in 17 and 18, where people were like, there's the Devon we know, so she's melting down in the backyard. Bailey comes to speak to Christmas to kind of understand what the situation that just happened was, and Christmas is talking with her hands in her face, and Bailey's actually very calm in this argument, which is very shocking. She's telling her to not wag her hands in her face and to not do all the extra stuff. So Christmas storms off. She's in the kitchen. She has this mug face. Bailey goes outside to calm Devon down, and she brings her inside, but Christmas is still talking her trash. Devon is very mad, and they're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Bailey is telling Christmas to not light the fire, and pretty much it's just a very ugly situation. And I do think this moment really weakened Christmas's story chances, since people really lose respect for her from this point onwards. Bailey is evicted in a unanimous 9-0 vote. Bailey is a weird one this season, since I do feel like a lot of her downfall was due to her being paired up with Devon, and Devon making a lot of mistakes. But she and Devon made their closeness with one another known from very early on, though many people would have assumed that her and Bailey were this untouchable duo. Anyways, because they always do this to the Black House guests. Or a lot of people who just aren't white in general, if you look at Big Brother history. She was definitely quieter this season. She wasn't as obnoxious, and you can tell that she was trying to play an under-the-radar game. But the fault of her not being able to see the bigger picture, her kind of being ignorant to what she knows being the only way, and in general just crumbling whenever adversity happens or she doesn't get her way, shows that she's not really a good player. But she was kind of under the radar this season, and she's not going to be one of the people you remember when you think of the season. So, yeah. Week 6 is definitely the most interesting week of the season, since things didn't go out exactly the way the committee wanted it, but the standards are extremely low with this season. So me saying that this week is the most interesting week of the season isn't saying much at all. Danielle wins HOH, which she didn't even want to win. Nicole also threw the competition, and we learned that Christmas made up with Devon and hopes to not be nominated, which doesn't work and it doesn't even matter. Danielle is aligned with everyone, or she thinks she is, and doesn't like the power, where Tyler is very nervous. Danielle tells Devon that she is safe, and David speaks to Devon about how he is not close to Danielle. Devon tells him that Danielle might be the crack in the alliance, so he needs to speak game to her, which he never really did in the season, which is a problem. Kevin and Ian talk about how they don't really have any agreements with her, but Ian feels a bit safe. Kevin hasn't spoken game to her either, since she is so ice cold. Devon speaks to Danielle, and they talk about everyone being best friends this season, and she says that she would put up Christmas and Tyler, but clearly Danielle mentions that if she swings, she can't miss at Tyler, and doesn't want to play like she did last time. Like I mentioned earlier, she did a lot of the same stuff with being too messy, though while she didn't flip too early, she still did a lot of the things that got her in trouble on both seasons. Cody tells Danielle that she needs to put up Kevin and David since they aligned with everyone else in the house, but she knows that Kevin isn't going after her, but Tyler is. Cody tells her not to nominate Tyler since they can't afford to break up 2 alliances in 2 weeks, which they broke up the 6 alliance last week. Danielle still mentions that Tyler is a good backdoor option, though Cody doesn't like it since he sees Tyler as a shield. Kevin is talking about representation, and he talks about his journey as a gay man, where he was made fun of for being too feminine, but how it was why he liked Big Brother, while talking about some of the self-hating, heteronormative gay men and how they act in general. Tyler and Danielle speak, and it's very awkward, where he mentions that he would not be shocked if she nominates him. She speaks to Nicole and mentions that she has to nominate Kevin and David, though she feels horrible about nominating Kevin. Danielle mentions to Nicole that she will not mind backdooring Tyler, and she does not trust him at all, though Nicole doesn't like the idea at all. Danielle is worried about how if she does not get him, he will get her, which is exactly what ended up happening to her. Danielle speaks to Kevin about being a pawn, and he is clearly annoyed, and she then has a conversation with Tyler to make a deal where they won't go after one another until the final 6, which obviously doesn't end up happening. Danielle nominates David and Kevin for eviction. Danielle's alliance is talking about how the nominations need to stay the same, since they, especially Cody and Enzo, do not want Tyler nominated. Due to David having the twist, he takes himself off the block secretly, and Danielle nominates Tyler as the replacement. Everyone immediately knows that it was David who took himself off the block, but he is just denying it. Though it's weird because no one in the house would have taken him off the block. Anyways, so that's more confirmation that they know it's him. Danielle does some damage control, or attempts to do it, with Tyler, and he is annoyed due to the deal that they literally just made. She also does damage control with Christmas, since she knows how group-obsessed Christmas is, and she does not buy it, since Danielle told her that another ally would have to go up as a replacement nominee, so Christmas is officially over her at this point. Devon wins the veto, and she is very emotional about winning her first competition in her Big Brother career. Danielle had a prior conversation with Devon about keeping the nominations the same, which she agreed to, but now that she actually won, her mind has changed. Devon pretty much tells Kevin that she's going to use the veto on him, and I think one of the reasons why she did it is because she wants to be on Twitter's good side, and so she can say that she made a move. But she realizes that she and Kevin will become the new duo, and will be nominated together next week if she doesn't win, which pretty much happens. Devon speaks to Danielle and pretty much tells her that she has to use the veto to Kevin, or on Kevin, since it's clear that she, Kevin, and David are outside of the large alliance. Danielle is freaking out to Christmas, since she might have to nominate a 4th person, where the only 2 options are Enzo and Ian. Danielle tells Cody that Devon is gonna use it, and he starts to freak out, though it makes sense for her own game, and this is a prime example of how Cody handles opposition, or when something doesn't go exactly his way. Anyways, Danielle states that she wants Tyler out, but Cody says no, and this should have been a sign to her that she's at the bottom of her alliance. Nicole knows that Devon is going to use it, and is told that Ian has to be nominated, since no one else will care if he left. Nicole is crying in the diary room about Ian going home. I don't remember if she faked this, since she tended to do this stuff in her last 2 seasons, where she pretended to cry about certain things, and pretended to watch the flip just so they could have footage for the eviction episode. Danielle speaks to Devon, stating that she's better for her game than Kevin, who will continue to go up, and tells Devon that her move is too big. They pretty much know that whatever relationship that they're trying to build will be ruined. But it doesn't really matter since there's very few non-committee members anyways, so Devon either would have went home next week or the week after, so it really doesn't change much of anything. Devon uses the veto on Kevin, and Ian is named the replacement nominee. Nicole claims that she's going to campaign for Ian to stay in the house. She was lying in the dining room, and Ian is worried that Danielle said that he was a pawn, since he's one of the 2 people who won the game, and he isn't the type of person to be a pawn. Devon speaks to Danielle, who is very pissed off, and Devon says that she'll do everything she can to keep Ian in the house. Danielle is still insistent on working with Devon, since she really doesn't have many other people, and she's next on the hit list once the non-committee members are gone. So she is trying not to be visibly upset, and Danielle also tells Ian that she is going to get him to stay. Danielle is lying and outright states this in the diary room, since he was just a side alliance, but she can't go against the committee. The issue is, she isn't improving her relationships with the people who are in the alliance, the same thing that will happen to Tiffany in the next season. Danielle tells Tyler that her speech was just a bunch of BS, and she does not want to go after him, where she's trying to make up with him until she can't use him anymore, or until she throws him under the bus. Ian is finally deciding to speak again to Memphis, which he has not done all season, and is trying to campaign. After the conversation, Ian realizes that he might not be safe, and he complains to Nicole. On the feed, he kept on complaining about how much better he is at the game than the others, referring to Kevin, Devon, and David, which is just not a good look optically, and he would recognize this once the season ended. Kevin speaks to Devon, and they realize that it makes no sense why Tyler isn't campaigning, unless he is guaranteed to have the votes, meaning that he has a bunch of numbers that the two of them are not included in. We see Nicole attempting to campaign for Ian, quotation marks, though she tells Danielle that Ian pretty much knows that he is going, but Danielle mentions that their spots are shitty if they go against the committee. They were all going after her anyways, but she didn't realize this. Nicole mentions that if they all vote out Ian, it will expose her spots in the House with being in an alliance with all of those people. Cody is insistent about not voting Taylor out since he's in too good of a spot in the alliance, and she mentions that her game is getting blown up. In this conversation, I definitely see how he is like Polly, as he's just railroading the conversation, and you can tell, or you can see his temper starting to flare up a bit. Ian speaks to Danielle and states that he won't vote for her to win if she's at the end. Cody and Nicole speak, and she mentions that if Enzo is in this position, he would not vote Enzo out, which is true, since he keeps him over Nicole at the end, and Cody is at least self-aware about this, as he admits it in the diary room. Nicole is annoyed that Cody keeps his closest allies while she has to give up hers, which should have been a sign to Nicole that she isn't as much of a priority to him that she thinks. Apparently, David planned to have the vote become a tie, so Danielle could break the tie, and Ian reports this back to Devon, since they all think that Nicole is voting with them. Devon tells him that David might be lying, so she asks David if it's true, and he confirms it. She tells Nicole this, and Nicole pretty much tells them what they want to hear, since she knows that Danielle being in a bad spot isn't a good thing for her gang. Kevin is mad at David for not telling him about his power, so Kevin doesn't buy the plan from David until they speak to one another. Kevin tells this to Danielle, and she rants about David. She is salty that he called her me on the feeds, though I think this happened a few weeks before this, where she's planning on making David public enemy number 1. Danielle tells Nicole that she cannot vote for Ian to stay, and she'll have to lie about the vote to pin it on David. Ian is evicted in a 5-3 vote. Honestly, Ian is the most forgettable person on the season, even over Keisha. There were weeks on end where I completely forgot that he was even in the game, since he didn't get much of a focus on the edit, and even on the feeds, he really just kept to himself. He didn't talk much game to people, and while he was trying to lay under the radar, he did it a bit too much where he was put on the outside, but he probably would have been on the outs anyways, because he's just kind of awkward. And while his strategy worked in Big Brother 14, with laying low in the first half and then winning out in the second half, the dynamics in that season were more fluid, where this season, the dynamics were not fluid at all, so he was permanently on the out. And it doesn't help that there are better competitors on this season, so he was kind of frozen out. I definitely think this season showed that his game in BB14 was a lot more luck-based than people initially realized, and while he could read certain things, he was definitely out of the loop and didn't know a whole lot. And even as a personality, while he was always kind of smug and entitled on 14, it definitely showed more here, especially when he was on the block and on his way out, despite him not really doing anything to warrant such praise in the season. There are certain weeks in Big Brother that are mainly just aftermath weeks of the prior week, and week 7 of the season is definitely one of those weeks where it's mainly just the aftermath of week 6 and what happened there. Memphis wins HOH, and Devon is still upset about the vote, since her gut apparently told her to vote the other way, but she ignored it. David knows that he is in some shit because Memphis is the person who targeted him the last time, and he talks the least to him. Devon believed that David set her up, which she rants to Nicole and Danielle about, and is trying to not call him out. The two women come up with what they are going to do this week, and they agree to not say anything, hoping that David becomes a bigger target. Kevin asks David what happened, and Kevin thinks that it is David. He and Devon look so stupid for this. Nicole continues lying to Devon, who rants about how much he wants to kill him. She rants to Danielle, as she does not understand why David has it out for her. Devon hated David because of what Kemi told her about him last season, and let it cloud her judgment. David and Devon are in the kitchen, and she asks him why did he flip, where he says that he didn't. She says that she trusted him despite what people told her. She is pissed because he made her chances harder, and they are supposed to be fighting for the same goal, which is a black winner. Kevin enters the room and Devon leaves, and David starts to completely rant loudly, where he eventually flips out since he's being set up. He mentions to Kevin that Nicole was the one who was lying about her vote, and Kevin mentions that David lied about his power, which is why he isn't trusted in the house. Kevin mentions that it's a 5% chance that Nicole did this to protect her friend. How stupid! Christmas is sour that Devon chose her as a have-not, and is picking a fight with her about it, which is just so ridiculous. Danielle mentions to Nicole and Christmas that she wants them to go to the end with one another, as a woman should win the season. Kevin tells Devon that he thinks that he, David, Danielle, or Nicole will be nominated. WTF at the last two names. And she walks off when David enters, where he is tired of the drama with Devon. David and Memphis have the typical awkward conversation, but Memphis is insistent on backdooring him this week. Why are you backdooring someone who hasn't won a thing yet? Where he makes a deal with David that he cannot play the veto, and if he tells someone, he'll be public enemy number one. Memphis nominates Kevin and Devon for eviction. Memphis is using Devon and Kevin as pawns to backdoor David, but he isn't telling anyone that David is his target. He didn't even tell anyone about the nominations. Danielle is talking to Cody and Ento about how she told her not to use the veto last week, and it's why she's on the block. Devon was always going home soon anyways, and Danielle is using this as a flaky justification. Just because she wants to victimize herself regarding the situation that she's in. Enzo and Cody are insistent on keeping the nominations the same, which is why Memphis should have told them his plans beforehand. Kevin and Devon are shocked that the other is nominated, and not David, and they plot to not pick David for the competition, since he's either working with Memphis or is being backdoored by him. Kevin tells Devon about how he's grateful for finding a friend in the house, and how they watch one another's seasons. And it's interesting how this poorly aged, since they fell out literally 2 weeks later in the jury house. The veto picks kind of exposes Danielle and Nicole, since it's clear that they are working with Kevin and Devon, which Tyler sees. And David realizes that the two of them are throwing him to the wolves. Nicole and Danielle are plotting to win to take Devon off the block, and Memphis tells them and Tyler that he wants to backdoor David, but Memphis wants them to throw the veto to him, and he tells the nominees this as well. All of this is just so utterly ridiculous. Tyler is annoyed that David is the target and doesn't want this, and the others are annoyed as hell with Memphis. Tyler reports all of this back to Cody about backdooring David, which annoys Cody, since David is alone. Tyler wins the veto, and Memphis is annoyed that he didn't throw it. Kevin and Devon realize that the veto won't be used, and they think that Memphis is lying, which isn't correct, but Memphis kind of thinks weirdly and differently than the others, so I could see why they think that he was lying, since most people would tell their allies their plans about the nominations and their backdoor plan. Tyler pretty much tells Memphis that he isn't going to use the veto, and Memphis is really annoyed, since David is going after him, which is his fault, and Tyler brings up the fact that Danielle and Nicole were picked for the competition, and they were trying to win it, so now Memphis is fine with the idea of knocking one of their allies out. Apparently, Cody also had a conversation with Memphis to change his mind, but they didn't show it here. Tyler does not use the veto. So everyone in the community are pretty much calling out Nicole and Danielle's alliance with Devon, since they are the only ones that weren't called out in Devon's veto speech, and she talks about how many people came up to her after the first 2 seasons for her finding their voices, like fans telling her this, and she feels like she is losing herself for being very silent in this season because there's no black person in the BB winners catalog, and she's doing everything she can to make sure that happens. Danielle realizes that she can't save Devon, who tells her that she isn't campaigning to stay, though she didn't really do that in either of her seasons when she was going home then too, so this is kind of par for the course. As she refuses to give Cody, Enzo, and Tyler the satisfaction of begging, and maybe David will stick to his morals like she did in week 2. I find this to be very sanctimonious in my opinion, especially since she really did want David gone, but she knew Twitter would be on her ass. Kevin asks Memphis if he is staying, and Memphis mentions that he is safe, and is saying that he will be shocked if she gets 1 vote to stay. Kevin speaks to Devon and mentions that he thinks that it was Nicole because she lied due to her alliance, and Devon doesn't believe it, since she thinks that she would be told this because they are trying to repair their relationship on a personal level. She speaks to Nicole and asks her for a final time if she voted for Ian to stay, as she's asking this for the final time as a friend or someone who's trying to become friends with her, where Nicole continues to lie about it. Devon doesn't want to bash David and be wrong, and this is an open wound since Nicole stabbed her in the back in BB18 and it's happening again. She knows she has 2 votes and will speak to David and Christmas to get the other 2 votes. So the edit is trying to make it look like the committee alliance are turning on one another, as Memphis plots with Enzo about making 2 different final 3s, since he thinks he could beat Enzo, which I think is accurate. Memphis asks Cody to be a part of his final 3 called the Wise Guys, as they ask Christmas to be in the final 3 called the Wise Guys as well. Christmas sees this as a security blanket in case Tyler goes, and Christmas and Tyler had a pre-game alliance due to Casey and Josh supposing to be on the season. Obviously, Tyler and Casey are friends from BB20. Christmas and Josh are obviously friends from BB19, and Casey and Josh have gotten closer to one another due to their experience on the challenge together. So that's where Tyler and Christmas's allegiance came from. Danielle is campaigning for Devon to Christmas, and she says that she thinks that David is with them, but Christmas sees through Danielle completely, and it's just further sinking her game. Christmas reports all of this to her future husband, and they can make a pitch to David to keep him safe for the next 2 evictions, as long as he nominates Nicole and Danielle if he wins HOH. Christmas does approach David with the plan, and she mentions that she knows he voted for Ian to stay, as Danielle and Nicole set him up, so he gets the confirmation about Nicole's vote. What they didn't show is that there was a wall yell that apparently confirmed Nicole's vote, and Devon overheard it, as well as many others. This caused for Nicole to be forced to admit her vote, and Devon was very upset. We didn't see any of this context on the show or the feeds, since they hate wall yellers, but it gives the situation some context. Devon is evicted in a 5-2 vote. I definitely found Devon to be frustrating and less likable in this season, as she thought she knew so much, but the one thing that she was given credit for in her prior seasons, like her perceptiveness, was completely gone this season. The amount of horrible reads that she had in the season is just completely baffling. And the worst part is, she stuck her nose up at David and thought she was so much better than him, but she really wasn't. I also think that she was too visible about her goals regarding having a Black winner and Black Lives Matter movement, as obviously this majority white cast isn't going to care about that, and they're going to feel insecure about it. And she was obsessed with the fact-checking, and she let herself get played by Nicole and another Calafiore brother again. In general, Big Brother isn't for her, and she should have stuck with the challenge, in my opinion. But she isn't the worst of the worst as a personality in this season, despite her getting on my last nerves here. And I think she got so bitter after the season because she knew she made a fool of herself, and some of her comments about mixed race people really rubbed people the wrong way. So I think she took this season and her fall very, very hard for quite a few years afterwards, though a lot of it was in general just her fault. Week 8 is frustrating because they completely rushed the mid-jury pre-endgame rounds of the jury portion of the season, where things could have been a bit more interesting, and they dragged out the endgame. And the triple eviction really robbed us of what could have been an interesting week, with Danielle being on the block for the full week. In general, it's just very frustrating, and while this season was pretty boring up until this point, it gets even worse after this week. Nicole is denying her votes to Christmas, and the latter sees right through it. I don't even know why Nicole is lying about it at this point. Both Danielle and Nicole are lying about their votes to one another, and I don't get the point of either of them doing this. Everyone sees through it, and them. But Danielle is trying to think of herself and not the two of them, so they're ready to throw one another under the bus at this point. Danielle told Nicole, Cody, and Devon about her power, and Nicole wants her to use it to prevent Kevin from winning the HOH, where she thinks herself and Cody will be nominated if he wins it. But Danielle doesn't want to use it. Nicole tells Cody this, and they're both willing to leave Danielle out to the wolves. I don't know why she thought Nicole and Cody would ever prioritize her over one another, and even the other allies in their alliance. Danielle tells Memphis about her power in hopes that he thinks it would endear them to her. So she is telling Memphis that she wants to use it on him, but he doesn't care for it at all. Cody wins HOH, and Kevin as well as David don't feel good about their chances. Danielle talks to Cody, Nicole, and Enzo that Christmas was very mad during the HOH competition, and when it is just the two of them, he asks her about her pitch, and she says that he is very rude, but it turns into Danielle bashing Christmas, who annoys the hell out of her, and is pushing for her to be nominated and sent home. Cody is going to nominate the two guys that he is not aligned with, and Enzo speaks to him about how Memphis wants the Final Four to be those three and Christmas. He rats out that Memphis formed a Wise Guys alliance with himself and Christmas. I don't know why Enzo felt the need to tell Cody this. Having some agency for himself is good. But they both want Christmas out very soon, and Cody's boot order, or ideal boot order, is Kevin, then Christmas, then Danielle. Nicole speaks to Cody and is told that Kevin is going home, and if he's safe, Christmas is going home, but Nicole does not want this, but she thinks that it is Danielle's move. Pretty much, she blames Danielle for her not telling Devon about the Ian vote, and she thinks that Danielle is going to go after her. I don't know why she thought this, because they were friends before the season, and while they did eventually make up, it took them a while to get there, and it is not Danielle's fault that Nicole chose to burn her joy vote on Devon by being a coward, and she should have known this, because this is what caused Devon to vote against Paul and for her in Big Brother 18. Nicole is told about the final three with Memphis, Enzo, and Christmas. Kevin talks to himself about how much he hates Cody, but he goes up to speak to him, as he states that he knows what he's going to do in jury, pretty much stating that he won't vote for Cody, and Cody is asking if there's something personal against Kevin, or if there's anything personal that Kevin holds against him, who tells Cody that the world does not revolve around him. The conversation is very tense and very argumentative, and you can tell that Kevin kind of sees Cody as the Jeff of the season, as he was very vocal about how much he can't stand Jeff on the feeds this season, and neither one of them handled this conversation well at all. Cody nominates David and Kevin for eviction. Danielle and Nicole talk about how it is likely that Christmas will go home if the nominations change this week, though Danielle is hoping that she can throw the veto to a nominee to make it happen. But Nicole is completely over Danielle, and they talk about hating that it would just be two women. Christmas and Memphis talk about the options of the nominations being changed, and she mentions that she could be a replacement nominee, since she's the least close to Cody out of everyone in the alliance. Kevin and David talk, and after his awful conversation with Cody, Kevin tells him that he will be safe, and Enzo is propping David up to win the veto, since he wants to make a move. Though Enzo will choke when he himself gets the opportunity later this week to do that. Kevin asks David as to what he would perceive him to be racially, and he talks about his biracial identity, where he doesn't present as Asian or Black, and he even talks about how Devon doesn't see him as Black, since he doesn't look like herself, David, and Bailey, with a Black phenotype. This made people so mad, and while I don't disagree with Devon, she should have said and handled this a lot better, as it kind of came off as tactless, but I do like Kevin bringing up and talking about the multiracial community and identity. Nicole throws Danielle under the bus to Christmas, and it's interesting to see the catty women turn on one another, but Nicole has done this for a third season in a row, so it isn't shocking and it's pretty on par. David decides to take the money instead of getting the veto while he's on the block, which everyone makes fun of him for. Cody wins the veto, and the entire house is talking about David's dumb move. Of course, Cody does not use the veto. Cody asks David for his thought process about taking the money during the veto competition, and he really wants David to stay over Kevin, but he's not helping his case. Kevin speaks to Cody so he can make up with him, and he's pretty much doing this so Kevin won't campaign against him. In jury, pretty much. They get a hint from Wall that there's going to be a double, and a few people suspect that it could be a triple eviction. Enzo is thinking about targeting Christmas and Memphis with Cody, who wants to target Tyler after Christmas, since he is only close to her. They also mention how close Memphis and Christmas are. Tyler is plotting with David to target Nicole and Danielle after Kevin goes. Danielle and Tyler plan for the double and triple, and they are BSing one another about staying in the 6. Kevin is evicted in a unanimous 6-0 vote. Kevin was someone that everyone was looking forward to coming back, since he was so far removed from Big Brother, not just because his season took place over a decade ago, but he wasn't involved in the alumni circles, and he showed a lot of potential in his original season. But something was off with him from the very beginning. His emotions were all over the place, and it's clear that he was not the same Big Brother Kevin, as he was a lot more emotional, he was a lot more tunnel visioned, and he let his insecurities plague him in the game. His reads were off for damn near the entire season. He was consistently nominated, and he couldn't get over the quote-unquote cool guy people, and kind of misplaced his insecurities onto people like Cody, and it really affected his game. It also has me reevaluating what he really did in Big Brother 11 and how much of it was either due to luck or the moves he actively made. Unfortunately, Kevin did a lot of damage to his reputation in the season. But I didn't like how people just hated on him on social media just because he didn't care for Janelle, or even Devon after their mess took place. Memphis wins HOH, didn't want to speak to anyone, and nominates David and Nicole for eviction. Christmas wins the veto and decides not to use it because her future husband didn't want her to do so, despite Christmas wanting to take out Nicole. She and Tyler tried to speak with Enzo to get him to vote out Nicole, and this happens even when they are in the process of voting, with Tyler telling Enzo to vote out Nicole. David is evicted in a 3-2 vote. David stuck out like a sore thumb in this season since he really didn't play in his original season and he wasn't even an interesting character, but it's clear why he was casted. In this season, he was so out of his depths, he was such a bumble F in every single way. Whatever potential he had strategically last season didn't exist here, but that's because he wasn't a passenger here, but he was actively playing the game. He made so many stupid mistakes, he didn't really know how to speak to people, so it just made him look very sketchy. He didn't really impress in competitions, and he was on the outs for the entire season. And people who should have trusted him and who should have wanted to work with him avoided working with him. So he was kind of just making his way through. And so immediately rats out Tyler and Christmas to Nicole, and he didn't vote her out due to not wanting to blindside Cody. Of course. Nicole and Tyler know that they are screwed, and Danielle is bragging to Nicole about how right she was about the two of them, Tyler and Christmas. Tyler wins HOH and nominates Nicole and Danielle for eviction. Tyler wins the veto and of course does not use it. Danielle begs Cody to vote for her to stay, and he lies to her because he doesn't want to be in any of the other conversations with her campaigning. Danielle is evicted in a unanimous 4-0 vote, and she has an awkward, argumentative exchange with Christmas as she leaves. So for some reason, a lot of people were shocked with Danielle's turn in the season when she was always kind of boy-centric in her gameplay, where her first season it was Nick, her second season it was Dominic, and her third season it was Cody, but the only difference is that her and Cody were platonic. She was always kind of unlikable, very messy in her gameplay and just how she talks and treats people, so her social game was all over the place, and she always tended to overplay. And despite her trying to stay loyal to an alliance, she was still doing the messy stuff like plotting unnecessary seeds and getting people to turn against one another, like she did in BB13. That caused everyone to turn on her anyways. And she didn't really improve or maintain her alliances with people inside of her alliance, and she dismissed people that she needed to work with, like Janelle, though she didn't realize what position she was in until it was too late, like she did when Devon was on her way out of the house. In general, this season really didn't make Danielle look good, and I definitely see why she was so bitter and saddened when she left and how she handled things after the season. By the time of week 9, I was actively avoiding episodes, and watching these episodes for the first time, now I can definitely see why, since not a damn thing happened, and it was a complete and utter bore fest, even more so than the prior 8 weeks. Tyler and Nicole have a conversation where he's trying to make up with her, but she doesn't believe anything he is saying. Cody wins HOH, and Tyler and Christmas knows that they are screwed. Nicole now hates the two of them, and is ranting about how Christmas is not a girl's girl. How fucking ironic coming from her. And Cody told Memphis and Enzo that Tyler and Christmas are going up, and he wants Christmas gone, since she's in a few alliances that he is not in. Memphis is going out of his way to protect Christmas, and also wants Tyler gone. Christmas makes fun of the amount of times Cody says, like, there are a few segments in the season about how Cody is not very smart. Pretty much, the house is split into two, with Cody, Nicole, and Enzo on one side, and Tyler, Christmas, and Memphis on one side, though I'm pretty sure Memphis doesn't see it as that. And the Jersey Italians talk about how Nicole needs to start winning a comp. Tyler starts speaking to Cody in order to save himself, but it is to no avail, though they are BSing one another. Christmas also does damage control. Both her and Tyler are throwing one another under the bus to Cody, but it is to no avail. Cody nominates Christmas and Tyler for eviction. Cody says to Nicole that he is 55-45 in favor of Christmas going, since Christmas is tied to Tyler and Memphis, and has the final three with Enzo and Memphis, which makes sense for him, I guess. Enzo is bragging about how he played Tyler and Nicole, but he is playing nice to the nominees. Christmas cries to Cody about being nominated, hoping that it will cause him to not target her, but Cody doesn't really buy it at all. Tyler and Memphis talk about how their fathers passed away and it kind of bonds them, but I do kind of remember talking about this in their original seasons. I also remember the same conversation happening with Tyler and Swaggy, and we saw how that went down. Memphis speaks to Christmas and mentions that there is a chance that Memphis might be the replacement nominee. He thinks her idea is crazy, since he has a final two with Cody, but she is absolutely correct on this. Tyler tells Enzo about the committee and says that Enzo was the plan for the triple. It is a lie, since this does nothing about it, since Cody told Enzo about the alliance about a month ago. Cody wins the veto and it's clear that he is not going to use it. Christmas throws Tyler under the bus to Enzo, and Enzo reports everything about Christmas to Cody, and also reports that Tyler told him about the committee, in addition to Cody trying to target him, causing Cody to want to target Tyler now. Tyler makes his last-minute pitch to Cody to get the veto used on him, but Cody does not use the veto. Enzo and Cody are annoyed that Christmas is too happy and mentions that she's lucky that Tyler is against her on the block, otherwise she would be a gunner. Tyler campaigns to Memphis, who tells him that he is voting him out. He's not going to vote out the person he's having an emotional affair with, so obviously this makes sense for Memphis. Tyler campaigns to Cody about Memphis and Christmas being a duo, but it is not changing Cody's mind. Memphis campaigns to Cody to keep Christmas in the house, and Cody mentions that Christmas is obsessed with big moves and is frantic, and Memphis has not forgotten about her voting against him on his HOH, or voting against the way he wanted on his HOH, and even stating that he will nominate her, though that's clearly BS. Though, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it might not have been, but he never intended on her being the target, so he probably would have nominated her as a pawn. Cody knows that Memphis is full of shit, since he has a final three with her, and Memphis campaigns to Enzo to get Nicole out, but Enzo is lying to him, and throws Memphis under the bus to Cody. Cody thinks that Memphis will put up the two women, take Christmas off the block if he wins the veto, and boot Cody, which is what he should be doing, but Memphis isn't thinking like that, so they think Christmas is Memphis' final two. Tyler is evicted in a unanimous 3-0 vote. A part of me really wants to like Tyler, but a huge part of me just finds him to be extremely insincere. In the season, he kept on talking about all of his brands and products with Angela that he was shilling throughout the season on the feeds, which annoyed me. And then there's his moment to quit, and while I somewhat feel bad for him, I really lost a lot of respect for him for trying to be a martyr and kind of weaponize the Black Lives Matter movement just so he could leave the game before a jury without actually having to quit, and then how he handled the situation just really pissed me off. He really kind of just came off pathetic during the mid-portion of the season as his mental health was kind of deteriorating, and while I did feel bad for him, others had families and loved ones too. His reputation definitely took a downfall with this season and how he handled things, and while he definitely had the potential to usurp Cody, he kind of just broke down and flatlined, so yeah. Week 10 is a prime example as to why they should not stretch out the end game weeks to a full week and 3 episodes, especially the final 5. Nicole wins HOH and Christmas does not handle the loss well since she was so close to winning. Memphis comforts her, and it's also his worst case scenario since Nicole is the only person he isn't aligned with. They don't really show Memphis and Christmas's relationship throughout the season on the show, with the amount of flirting they did, and it was clear that something was going to happen with the two of them, despite them both having partners. And they would try to keep it off, or try to shut down the conversations when they thought the feeds were on them, but they were caught several times. Cody and Enzo are thrilled with the results, and Cody is BSing Memphis into thinking the latter is safe. Nicole reveals that Memphis is going home, and they all talk about how pompous Memphis is, as she has not forgotten that Christmas voted her out, or voted to evict her, and Memphis nominated her in that round. Christmas makes her pitch to Nicole, and while the latter knows her nominations already, she's trying to fish information out of Christmas, but is telling her that she doesn't want her going home. From their conversation, Christmas mentions that Cody is at the top of the hierarchy, so she knows that Christmas is targeting Cody. Nicole repeats this to Cody, I don't know why she did this, and tells him to not flip the vote from Memphis to Christmas. Memphis makes his pitch to Nicole, and he offers her a deal, claiming that he has no deal with anyone in the house, which of course she knows is utter bullshit. Nicole nominates Memphis and Christmas for eviction. Cody and Enzo talk about how they are the only two people in the season who have never been on the block, and Memphis thinks that he will stay over Christmas due to his wise guys alliance with Enzo and Cody. Cody tells Memphis what he wants to hear, and Christmas is hoping that Enzo wins the veto to use it on a nominee so they can boot Cody. Enzo thinks that she's a dodo for this idea, but if he's playing self-interested, this could have been his move to win, and he reports all this to Nicole, but it doesn't change her target. Cody talks about his girlfriend and how she had cancer at one point, so he was really missing her, and Christmas also talks about how her mother had cancer, and she was shocked that she made it through alive. Christmas makes a final two with Nicole, and she accepts it, where Christmas doesn't want a repeat of Big Brother 19, where Josh told her the entire time that he would take her to the end and took Paul, and she doesn't want a guy to win the season. Nicole wins the veto, and it's obvious that it isn't going to be used. Christmas makes a deal with Nicole, says that the guys might not vote the way she wants, and we do see Cody and Enzo talk about voting out Christmas. Nicole does not use the veto. Both nominees feel very safe, and Nicole doesn't want it to be a tie, so she wants Cody and Enzo to vote out Memphis. Memphis is reminding Cody about Christmas trying to backdoor him, so he'll vote for him to stay, though Cody knows that Memphis was behind this plan, and he also spoke to Nicole about it, and Cody is acting very cocky like his brother. Enzo and Memphis are talking about how if Nicole makes it to the end this season, she will probably win the game. Enzo talks to Cody about booting Christmas, but Cody is more insistent on Memphis being a bigger threat, but they might make the vote a tie. Memphis is evicted in a unanimous 2-0 vote. While Memphis wasn't the most likable or interesting person on his original season, he's really unlikable here, and his pompous attitude was apparent from the very beginning to the very end, where he even rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So his social game, while a bit better here than it was in BB10, was still very faulty. I do like how self-interested he was throughout the entire season. As he made his alliances, he took an aggressive approach. He won a lot more HOHs and competitions than he did in his original season, and was always willing to make a deal. I didn't like how obsessed he was with David, and it really rubbed me the wrong way. His cheating with Christmas was kind of interesting, but they don't even show it on the episode, so it's kind of wompy and wonky anyways. Who thought it would be a good idea to make the final four 3 episodes and 7 days? Seriously. So let's get to week 11. Enzo ends up winning HOH, though how he won it pissed off the entire house, though Christmas thinks that she has a good enough chance to be safe. Nicole thinks that she is going to be a gunner since Enzo didn't help Cody take out Christmas in the comp, and Christmas feels too safe. Enzo does reveal that his ideal scenario is for Nicole to be booted this week, and Christmas speaks to Cody about why he's targeting her in the competition, and he doesn't explain himself well at all. Cody and Enzo have the conversation about the HOH competition, and he's trying to push for Nicole to go. He somewhat regrets not sending her home in the triple, but it's spilt milk at this point. But Cody pretty much shuts down the idea of sending Nicole home. There is so much filler, since I don't even know why they felt the need to make the final 5 an entire week and the 4 an entire week. Enzo nominates Nicole and Christmas for eviction. Christmas realizes that she is all on her own in the house and was shocked by Enzo nominating her, while Cody and Nicole are tired of Christmas's attitude, pretending being grumpy, not talking to anyone, and being emotional. They are fighting comics because there's nothing to do in the house, and Christmas is crying about not picking Memphis for the comic, but I think this more had to do with her growing romantic feelings for him, despite both of them being in a relationship, and the fact that they got together literally right after the season pretty much proves this dilemma right. Cody wins the veto, and Christmas knows that she is toast. Christmas is campaigning to Enzo, mentioning Cody and Nicole's relationship, how she's a winner, but she doesn't know how to actually campaign to Cody. Enzo makes his campaign against Nicole, but Cody feels confident in his competition ability, and Nicole will take him to the end. Enzo mentions to Nicole and Cody that this will be a great final 3, and Christmas overhears it, so it's a sign that she is already a goner in their eyes. Christmas throws Enzo under the bus about wanting Nicole out all season as a Hail Mary. Nicole is worried about whether she is staying since she has trauma from Cody cutting her way before their final 4 in Big Brother 16, and he isn't giving her much assurance. Christmas is evicted by Cody's sole vote. Christmas is just as dour and miserable here as she was in Big Brother 19, and you can tell that she was trying to keep it calm and keep it cool during the first few weeks of the season. But when she won HOH, she really showed her ass and really looked awful for many reasons. She's the type who is very obsessed with playing for the team and playing for the group, to the point where she doesn't have self-interest, which is something that she repeated here. But I did see that she was becoming a bit more self-interested, where she was voting out and plotting against Nicole before the alliance broke up, and she had to fight on her own for the final 3 weeks that she was in the house. And it was kind of annoying that she was the only person who actively wanted to target Cody throughout the season, and it kind of forced her into an underdog position, but she's just not likable. And the one thing that was kind of interesting with the cheating scandal with Memphis, they didn't even bother showing on the episode, so that kind of sucks. So people really hype up the finale week because Nicole got cut, but honestly, I didn't give a shit because I really wanted the season to be over and done with, just so Cody could get his win over and done with, so I felt no ways. Nicole wins part 1 of the final HOH, and Cody wins part 2 of the final HOH. Enzo does not handle this well and goes on a huge rant about it outside and even when they are inside again. Cody wins part 3 of the final HOH, making him the HOH where he evicts Nicole, who is genuinely blindsided. Nicole pretty much gave what I thought she was going to give. Very insincere, does things for the cameras, is very messy but doesn't own it and likes to play the victim. But the gameplay that she did worked for her. She works with a lot of the guys and is kind of glad to be one of the last standing women in the house. Though she was nominated a lot more this season, and she wasn't as high up as she thought she was since she was expendable to a lot of people in her alliance, but her Cody connection really paid her dividends. At the same time, I didn't really care to watch her, but she proved that she can hang on her own, and she was one of the 2 winners in the season, so she proved that she's definitely one of the top people from this era in general. Tyler asks Cody if he played a more well-rounded game than Enzo, and how, and Cody responds that he did play a more well-rounded game based on the social game, competitions, and having multiple final 3s and 2s, which he didn't do in his first season, and it was frowned upon, so he wanted to play a different game this time around, as he only wasn't aligned with 4 people in the house this season. Ian asks Enzo the same question about playing a more well-rounded game than Cody, and Enzo says that he used Cody as a weapon, and he knew he would be a beast, yo. So he jumped on his back and used him, yo, where he himself didn't have to win anything. I was in a great spot all season, as he was never nominated, while adding that he did win some cups, yo. I did win some cups, can't forget about that. Kevin asks Cody about benefiting from alliances, and asks him about the 3 things he did that the jury is not aware of. And Cody responds that he pushed for Ian to go home, despite having a Final 4 with him, due to Ian throwing competitions and didn't want him to beast the last half of the season with comps, going to Tyler to get him to target Danielle, and then targeting Tyler right afterwards. Devon asks Enzo about his strategy outside of his social game and competitions, and he says that his strategy was to get people to love him and to not be targeted. So, he pretty much blatantly ignored the fact that she didn't want him to talk about his social game, where he wanted people to feel comfortable with him. Christmas asks Cody if he played the same game or evolved from his first game, and he responds that it did evolve since he had the social aspect in Big Brother 16, but was led by Derek strategically, as he didn't really have a strategy then, where he handled the strategy in the season and positioned himself well, hence having multiple final deals. Memphis asks Enzo the same question about whether his game evolved from Big Brother 12 or stayed the same. And Enzo says that he did evolve since he won 3 competitions within the first 23 days, where he only won a competition at the end of BB12, and it was deadly with his social game. Danielle asks Cody, outside of the weeks he won HOH, how did he influence the house? And he responds with the Ian situation and convincing Memphis to not backdoor David, but to target Devon when people wanted Kevin out that week, and then buttered Christmas up about Danielle and Nicole, causing her to target them and to gain Christmas's trust, and then clipping Memphis, who was one of his final 2s. David asks Enzo about his goodbye message, telling them that he wanted them to stay, and taking no responsibility for their evictions, where Enzo said that it was hard to boot people since he had no targets, and he did want everyone to stay, since he had alliances agreements with everyone, so he is claiming to stop winning competitions after day 23. Nicole asks Cody if he ever contemplated taking her to the end, and why he chose Enzo, where he responds that he did contemplate taking her, since she was more crucial to him than Enzo was in the game, since she was close to the people that didn't trust him, so he did consider taking her, and it was a back and forth, but she already won once. Enzo's final speech is about finally making it there as he's walking around the house making the speech after 10 years, talks about Cody winning all the competitions and being a beast, yo, but he used Cody as a weapon as this season was easier than Big Brother 12. He was not a target the entire season and is forever indebted to Cody. The jury starts laughing at Enzo, and you can tell he starts shutting down and freaking out. He also mentions that he was never nominated during the 85-day season. Cody's final speech is that Enzo was on the block during the final three, how he was never nominated whatsoever during the season. Between the competitions, strategy, and relationships, he was able to dodge Kaiser targeting him from the second he walked into the house, and his skills brought a lot of his allies in the game, as most of his final twos were in the final five, so he didn't play the game just for himself, but he justified his targets based on when trust was broken, and he feels more confident about his game now than in Big Brother 16. Cody wins the season in a unanimous 9-0 vote. There was really no surprises with Enzo this season, pertaining how he was as a personality, as he was kind of used as a comic relief at times, and how he played the game. Since he kind of just latched onto the lines that he was in, he was very bro-centric, he didn't really have much of a target on him, and he avoided being nominated for most of the season. But when it comes to having individual agency, he's never really able to do that, as he had one chance to do it in the triple, but he faltered. So I think that's just a huge flaw with Enzo. But in general, I really got what I was expecting of Enzo this season, and while I didn't really care much for him, he didn't really annoy me too much throughout the season. Cody is also what I expected entering the season and the rewatch in general, since he generally has the social skills, the competitive skills, and the strategic skills to do well under any Big Brother season, and he also had the pretty privilege, while not being as tempered as his brother, where he wouldn't have a meltdown and completely flatline. It was obvious from the preseason that he was going to win, and nothing really deterred from that. And I know a lot of people complain about the pre-gaming in the season, but that was done in every single returnee season, so I can't hold that much against Cody. In general, he's still pretty boring, his game's pretty boring, and they made fun of his intelligence more than I remember in the season, so that was kind of shocking. But in general, the season was kind of hand-mapped to Cody, so good for him. Production of Big Brother was always hesitant on doing a returnee season, and a lot of the fans didn't understand why, but I think after this season took place, they do understand why they were never fond of it, and I don't think many people want a returnee season after this, as it really just didn't go the way they wanted it to. No one really had fun in the season, and I think most of the house guests that took part in the season regret taking part of it. The gameplay was the most simplistic in any Big Brother season, which says a lot because we're 20 seasons in the series at this point, and you would expect more from returnees to make an entertaining season or to have a dynamic, strategic game, but that just didn't happen. But I also think that if you looked at the casting, this shouldn't really be shocking, since a lot of the men on the season were very bro-centric, a lot of the women were very team-centric or kind of male-centric themselves. They cast a lot more people from some of the more recent and boring seasons, and it was clear that some of the others were cast to be early boot fodder. The season is definitely in the running to be my least favorite overall, and while other seasons made me angered at times, or I didn't like certain things that happened, at least I had an emotion to it, and some of those seasons usually had at least a few good weeks in the season, but this season doesn't have any of that. So anyways, that is the end of the quote-unquote modern era. I will be ranking everyone that took place in this era from Big Brother 16 to Big Brother 22, where I will rank all of them based on what they displayed on Big Brother, though I will do that after I rank the Big Brother 22 cast in a Game Player's tier ranking video, and then after that, I will do Big Brother 23, 24, and 25. Thank you all for watching. You can subscribe below, and you can also follow me on social media. Take care.